Well, welcome. I'm very, very excited to have you all with me today. My name is Matt Gersper. I'm the founder of Happy Living, and this is our very first Character Day workshop. So thank you so much for joining us. I think you're going to have that we're all going to have a really fun hour. I just want to take a few minutes and introduce Character Day. It's the third annual Character Day. This is an event that was started by a friend of mine named Tiffany Shlain, who is a filmmaker, an award-winning filmmaker. And I first met her by watching one of her award-winning films called Connected. It's just an awesome film. And that led me to tracking her down and developing a relationship with her and now helping her with Character Day. When they started the event back in 2014, they had 1,500 viewings, workshops, groups that were participating all around the world. Last year, that number grew from 1,500 to 6,700. And this year, they almost have 90,000 events going on today in 123 countries, on every continent, and every single state in the United States. It's just fantastic. They're also doing a Q&A live cast all through the day. So I sent everybody this link where it says join us. And on YouTube, they have a YouTube channel that you can be listening and participating in the live cast if you're interested after our workshop. And those will be up there to all kinds of different speakers that are going to be talking about Character Day and what it means to them. And so this is a big event that's going on. The third thing I wanted to talk to you about is looks like real fun. It's put it up here on the screen. And they're doing a Pass It On campaign. So all throughout the day and in the days to follow, what we'd like you to do is think of somebody who has character strengths that you admire, and publicly let them know. So today at Happy Living, we nominated a friend of mine, Jocelyn Dunn, and this is the format they want you to nominate. So we nominate, and if I was Twitter, it'd be at Jocelyn Dunn. At Facebook, I've linked in Jocelyn Dunn for her, and then 2 different character strengths with hashtags, hashtag bravery, hashtag kindness, and then the hashtag Pass It On and hashtag Character Day. So if you have somebody you want to nominate, tweet about it and put it on Facebook, and you're going to be a part of this entire international community today celebrating strong characters and the people that we admire. And I think that's it for the introduction. So the agenda, what we'll do for just the next 45 minutes or so, is we're going to watch 2 films. The first one's called The Science of Character. After each film runs, and the first one's 8 minutes, the second one is 11 minutes, so they're short films. After each one, we'll take a 10-minute break, and I'll unmute everybody, and we'll just discuss what inspired us from the film and why. So as you're watching the film, take notes. If something inspires you, write it down, and think about why it inspired you, what grabbed your attention, and then we'll have a short discussion about it. And then after the second film, in the second discussion, we'll talk about getting focused on the biggest question of all, which is if you've been inspired by something and you want to do something different tomorrow than you're doing today because of this exercise that we're going through, then how will you bring that into your life? What will you do differently? How will you make time for it? And so we'll spend the last 10 minutes kind of talking about how we'll bring change into our life. So with that, I'm going to tee up the first film. This is called The Science of Character. And what Tiffany explores here is the neuroscience and the social science that's behind character development. I think you'll find it very interesting. And what the film seeks to discover is how we can shape who we are and who we want to become. So here's Tiffany Shlain and her first film we're going to watch called The Science of Character.
There are 7 billion, well actually 7.1 billion humans on the planet. And each one of us has a unique character. So what determines your character? You do. And all the people around you. And of course some genetics too. But there's new science proving that if you focus on certain parts of who you are, you can develop your character and ultimately live a more meaningful, successful, and happy life, no matter what your circumstances. I mean, isn't that what we're all trying to figure out? This whole idea about developing our character really took shape in 2004, when two psychologists suggested that instead of just focusing on all the things that can go wrong with us, it's also important to celebrate all the things that can go right. You see, they looked throughout history to identify core virtues that humans across cultures have agreed lead to a meaningful life. And then they identified 24 character strengths that, when practiced and developed, could lead to these virtues. And they organized them, like scientists have done throughout history to understand things better. These groundbreaking studies showed that every person is a unique combination of these strengths. Like for me, I'm high on curiosity. I could work a little on the prudence. Actually, what is prudence? Anyhow, one of the most interesting parts of all this is they found that if we focus on building upon the strengths we have, it has a lasting effect on our happiness and well-being. So think about it. What are your top 5 strengths? Now, another part of this is that you can help shape other people's character too. They found that the key to human relationships is ultimately appreciating the character strengths in others. To explore this, we asked people around the world, who do you admire and why?
I admire my mother the most because she's very loving and caring. The woman I admire the most is my sister because she is so tough and so brave.
People who use their creative energy to make the world a better place.
This powerful new framework paved the way for a whole new era of social science that it turns out is unpacking a very old idea. So how do we develop these character strengths? One theory suggests that people either have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. A fixed mindset is the belief that we're born with certain abilities, intelligence, and talents, and we're stuck with it. A growth mindset is believing I can change. If I set my mind to it, I can do anything. Let's take, for example, failing at something. With a fixed mindset, failing means, I'm a failure. A growth mindset understands failure happens to everyone. Of course, it's hard. I've been there. But it's also something to learn from, something to improve upon. Fortunately, we can all develop a growth mindset. It takes practice and it takes encouragement from the people around us, but it can be learned. And it's all because of an amazing part of the human brain called the prefrontal cortex. It's like our brain's control panel that orchestrates our thoughts and actions, what many scientists call executive functions. Or what neuroscientist Adele Diamond calls self-regulation. I like to think of it as my self-control filter, the thing that keeps my impulses and emotions in check. And the way to strengthen that filter is as simple as taking a moment, focusing your attention, and asking yourself, is what I'm about to do a reflection of who I am and who I want to be? So while we're all becoming more and more distracted in this age of distraction, we need to remember to take a moment and think. There are a lot of new exciting conversations happening about character. One that I find interesting is that there are 7 strengths in particular that can be real game changers in academic achievement, success, and happiness, no matter what your circumstances. Those 7 are optimism, gratitude, social intelligence, curiosity, self-control, enthusiasm, and perseverance, also known as grit. While there have been many different theories about character throughout history, what scientists in this field agree on is that character matters, and that character strengths can be learned, practiced, and cultivated. So when you think about yourself, what are your strengths? And how can you find ways to use them more in your home, work, school, and community? It's like you have these superpowers, and focusing your attention on them makes them stronger. And then, if you focus on the people around you and their strengths, it makes them stronger too. As each of us becomes our best versions of ourselves and encourages others to do the same, we can lead to important changes throughout the world. Just imagine a world infused with more humanity, justice, courage, wisdom, and compassion. So if you can be a better version of yourself, how do you want to be?
I definitely want to be somebody that other people can feel they can rely on.
A man who was courageous.
Somebody went for their goals.
A risk taker.
Kind.
Exactly like my mom. Beautiful, strong, and powerful. I am able to say that I like funny.
Who is not aggressive. Generous.
Yourself.
Kind.
Accountable.
Incondicional.
Humanitarian. También sensible, emocional.
Charismática.
I want to become someone who, when the time comes for me to die, I go, oh my goodness, I have boosted up. I have rocket trying. Everybody is starting.
Vision needs work and shine.
Oh boy, was that awesome?
Yes.
It just makes me smile. I especially like the, oh my goodness, I have used it up. That'd be a good way to live life. So we have Stephanie, do you hear me?
I do.
Good. Are you able to see the film?
Yes.
Excellent. And we have an unknown caller. Can you hear me? All right, so I think we have just 4 of us on the line, which means we're going to need really good participation from everybody because we're recording this. So let's just go around the horn. Maybe Kyle, let me start with you. What did you think about the film? What kind of inspired you? And what character strengths do you think that you have, or that you feel like you want to work on? As she asked the question, how do you want to be?
Yeah, can you pull up the table of strengths or character traits?
Yes.
Awesome. So I think the coolest thing of that is the whole growth mindset versus fixed, and how you can continually work on yourself and improve. And in terms of what I would like to work on, probably creativity and optimism. I'm not always the most optimistic in the world.
That's great. I read today somebody who talked about having a negative mindset. He said it reminds me of what my dad used to say about always talking about awfulness. I never heard the term awfulness. So that's great. Creativity and optimism. Deborah, how about you? Oh, Deborah, we don't hear you. Are you muted? Well, Stephanie, how about you?
For me, I think there's two that, well, I'm sure there's loads that I need to work on, or could work on, not need to, but could work on. But the two that immediately come to mind for me are bravery, because I think sometimes I worry about an outcome, or if I don't have absolutely all the information that I could possibly get my hands on, I sometimes get afraid to take a step.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes we just need to be brave and just do it.
Yeah.
And I think the second one is forgiveness. And I mean that as much for myself as for anybody else. One of the things my very close friends tell me is that I'm very hard on myself. I have incredibly high expectations of myself, and that also translates to the people around me. And I think that, as Kyle was saying, right, we need this growth mindset that says, hey, a failure isn't a problem. It's what can you learn from it? And I think that forgiveness is part of that, right? Forgiving the mistake that I made, maybe the mistake somebody else made, to say, okay, what can I learn from this situation so that I continue to grow and develop more?
No, that's awesome. Your two actually go together in one of my very favorite expressions that I like to use in business a lot. It's easier to ask forgiveness than to ask permission.
Yes.
Which means just do it. All right, Deborah in Spain, I hope you can hear us, but we can't hear you. Can I ask one more time if you had some strengths you noticed? Well, I think Deborah can just hear us, but we can't hear her. So let me tell you the two that I actually thought about, three that I think I need to work on. And all of them have to do maybe with slowing down and being, more fully present, like you always hear people talk about. So I think being more curious would be good for me, asking the next question, taking the time to delve into something more deeply, having more gratitude, and then having more appreciation for beauty. And again, I think all that, if I can focus on that, that's going to help me live more in the moment happily and just enjoying what's going on in my life, and to enjoy more fully those people who I'm with and learning about them. So I think we're, Kyle or Stephanie, any other comments or questions? Did you love the film?
I have
I
no
did
more.
love it. That's the second. Oh, go ahead,
for it.
Kyle.
I didn't have anything else to add, so.
Okay. And Stephanie, you've watched it twice already?
I have, and I think each time I watch it, I get something a little bit different than the time that I watched it before. So it's kind of fun to see it again.
Awesome. Well, the next one, I think I don't know if I can say I like it even more, but man, I really, really liked it a lot. And it's quite different. But in this one, I was so moved by it that I ended up writing a specific post about it, which is, has man's left brain created a woman's world? And what you'll see, it talks about, well, I'll just let you see it, and then we'll talk about it on the back end. So let me tee it up here. Okay. Off we go. I'll see you in 11 minutes.
What's a great example of a 21st century mind in action?
I heard about a 25-year-old woman.
Satellites.
I really like that story about the Birmingham album.
Our question prompted all these responses about amazing technological breakthroughs and innovations. And then we heard one story that opened a door to a new way of thinking. It's about an art professor in Los Angeles named Mary Beth, who was watching the news around the Ebola crisis in West Africa and thought, wait a second, these patients must be so scared and lonely, and the only humans they're seeing are covered in these huge imposing suits.
In every report that I heard on the Ebola epidemic, they mentioned the frightening suits.
I imagine what would it be like to be a patient to not see a person's face for days on end. I found myself almost saying out loud, why don't they put photos on the outside? Why don't they just put photos on?
And finally, I thought, maybe I'm the one who's meant to do that.
And we were so moved because the way Mary Beth's story unfolds shines a light on a larger shift we're seeing in the world. As technologies are rapidly changing how we do everything, certain skills are becoming less valuable, the need to memorize, perform routine tasks, and soon even the need to drive, while others are becoming more valuable. So what exactly are the skills that prepare us for a world that's constantly changing? Of course, there's a lot of conversation around this question. What should we be focusing on in school and in life? There's the importance of science, technology, engineering, and math. I like to throw in art and humanities. So not STEM, not STEAM, but STEAM. And there's also amazing new evidence-based research proving that there's another set of skills we need that aren't in textbooks yet. So as we learned more about Mary Beth's story and delved deep into how it connected to all the different schools of thought, the hard skills, the soft skills, the life skills, the cognitive, the non-cognitive, we found 5 skills, strengths, qualities, whatever you want to call them, and yes, it's another list that seem to be at the core of thriving in today's world. So if you want to know what they are, or how Mary Beth's story relates to any of them, you're already practicing the first one, curiosity.
The news kept puncturing my consciousness. I started reading more extensively about West African culture, about filoviruses. I mentally just started problem solving.
In our 24/7 world where we're inundated with information from all directions, 3 billion Google searches a day, 300,000 tweets every minute, curiosity is the difference between skimming the surface of all those links and truly engaging. And not just looking for what's already out there, but also for ideas that aren't already out there. New research from UC Davis shows that when our curiosity is piqued, the brain activates regions associated with learning, memory, and even reward. It basically turns our minds into very happy sponges. And while there's a lot of fear out there that technologies are replacing what we do, our curiosity is one of the things that makes humans unique from machines, but not from animals. Machines follow rules very well, follow a designated pathway. But our minds are built to constantly adapt, to ask questions that create unexpected pathways, pathways that lead to even more curiosity. And those questions you ask and pathways you open also lead to creativity, our second skill.
And my immediate response was to look around me, take what was available, and repurpose it for that use.
We often think about creativity as part of art, but it's important in absolutely every context, taking different research and finding connections, a new synthesis, a new idea. Harvard psychologist Howard Gardner says creativity is liberating human energy. And in today's world, creativity is so key because you have so much information at your fingertips that getting that information is not the biggest challenge. In fact, more and more, the world is going to expect that you're curious enough to do that. It's how you bring your own unique perspective to connect ideas in new ways that's going to differentiate you. Research now shows that some of your most creative thoughts happen when your mind is left to wander, when you daydream, exercise, even when you're doing the dishes. But no matter how many creative ideas you have to do something with them. Which brings us to the third skill we need in today's world, taking initiative.
I wrote scores of letters to anybody that I could think of. Many responded positively. In fact, most responded positively. But getting someone to commit to partner was the most difficult part.
If you don't take initiative, your ideas will float into a sea of billions of thoughts being generated around you every day. And in order to begin and get something done, we use an incredible amount of things like intuition, judgment, discerning which ideas to act on, knowing when to shift directions or approach. Taking initiative also means knowing when to reach out to people. What would an artist think about your idea? What about a scientist? What about somebody from another country? Which is really about multidisciplinary thinking.
I reached out to epidemiologists, doctors, public health, NGOs, even anthropologists asking, what do you think of this idea? How could I improve it?
There's so much talk today about how we're distracted by multitasking, but what we really need to be doing more of is multi-asking. Across ages, races, genders, cultures, and disciplines. We think of the mind as private, and there's so much value in solo thinking. But there are also so many ways that the mind is public, this communal organ to communicate, to transfer ideas, and to collaborate. In collaborating, just like everything else about being human, can be messy. It takes understanding what you know and what you don't know. So the next time that you're collaborating, how can you make sure that your mind is really open to being changed? It really comes down to empathy.
I imagine what it would be like to be a patient, to be taken away from your family, taken away by somebody wearing this frightening suit. And then there's the view from the healthcare worker's side. You have your human tool to have patients accept your care, gone.
MIT researcher Rebecca Sachs suggests that this skill of sensing the motives and feelings of others really begins developing around the age of 5 and has the potential to grow stronger throughout life. But just like the rest of these skills, empathy takes practice. Looking people in the eye, truly trying to understand where they're coming from, taking the time to know the names and stories of people you interact with daily. And it seems as our world has become more and more connected, we have to remember that connecting broadly is meaningless unless we connect deeply. In fact, a 3-decades-long study of college students has found that empathy levels in our culture have dropped dramatically. It's clearly time to refocus. Empathy is at the core of our ability to communicate, to work together, to be part of our rapidly changing world, which is where you come in. For most of human history, we survived by creating an agricultural economy. 200 years ago, we shifted to an industrial economy. Just 50 years ago, we initiated the knowledge economy. And today, we're approaching another seismic shift. Some people are calling the human economy. So here we talk to scientists, friends, researchers, Mary Beth, and here's the part that we found most fascinating and hopeful. The skills we need most in today's world in any profession boil down to being human. Basically, the qualities that machines don't have. Eventually, through hundreds of connections, obstacles, and breakthroughs, Mary Beth was introduced to a doctor in Liberia who landed her an official invitation to begin work in their Ebola clinics.
I want patients saw me, you see, I love the food too.
These skills have been the engine of innovation and survival since the beginning of civilization. But we've arrived at a time when your human skills are just as important as your knowledge. So what can you offer? Who's ready?
You open up when you had me in your hands, slipping far away with the world at your command.
imagine what this lady puts into those are 8-minute and 10-minute films.
Yeah, that's a lot of work.
Uh-huh.
My goodness. And wasn't the ultimate solution how elegantly simple it was? But who would have come up with that? I just found that really fascinating. So let's go around our very, very big horn. Kyle, what was your big takeaways? What inspired you about that film, and why?
I guess it did a good job of showing how the world is in a state of flux and change right now, and how with technology we are simultaneously growing further apart, but also getting close to each other and being able to share information more readily. So you can get a solution from a woman in New York for a problem in Africa, but also technology, in a way, helps insulate yourself also.
Yep, it's a double-edged sword. Cool. Anything else you can think of?
That was my quick thoughts on it.
All right. Stephanie, how about you?
I thought it was, well, I wrote down a couple things, but I think the one that it really stood out was the observation that the top skills that we need to be successful in any field are those that make us human. The curiosity, the creativity, initiative, empathy. I think that's really interesting because I think that there is, that some people fear that technology is going to take over and going to rule us obsolete. And the fact is that it's just not true because, the machines will never be able to have that thing that makes us human.
Yes, great point. Anything else from that?
I thought it was interesting that she said empathy starts at age 5.
Uh-huh.
I know that's kind of silly, but you've heard people say that, toddlers are psychopaths, jokingly, of course, but I was like,
But they are.
It's really interesting that that we can say empathy doesn't start until age 5, but has the opportunity to be developed for a lifetime after that point. So that I found that really fascinating.
Yeah, me too. In fact, I think empathy is not one of these character traits, but that's probably at the top of my list. And that relates, I think, to also curiosity, gratitude, and appreciation of beauty. But empathy is probably my big thing I have to work on. Well, I wrote down a few things I'd like to share. First, I really like the idea of connecting broadly versus connecting deeply. And technology and social media gives us this huge power to connect broadly, but incredibly shallowly. And the real trick is how can we use technology to also reach down and connect deeply. And it's a big, the work that we're doing, Stephanie and Kyle. We're doing a lot of broadcasting, and we want our messages to reach and help people. And we work every day at it. But how do we drill down so we create deeper connections? That's something I really want to think about for Happy Living and for our work. The second point that I really took out of this was the idea that certain skills are becoming less valuable because maybe machines can do them. I would add to it also because maybe other people can do them just the same as I could, because it's kind of a routine process. It doesn't take curiosity, creativity, initiative, multidisciplinary thinking, or empathy, so others can do it. So if I'm going to improve my life, I want to try to get all those things that other people or machines can do that I need to have done and outsource those. So I can spend my time doing work that only I can do because it's my own curiosity or creativity or initiative or seeking multidisciplinary thinking or applying empathy. So machines can't do what I do, but neither could anybody else. It's uniquely me if I'm focusing on these 5 things. And the output of that then can become my unique gift to the world. Nobody else can do it.
I think to add to that, part of that for me is not just outsourcing those things that other people could do, but recognizing when to stop doing things that don't matter at all.
That's absolutely. Yeah.
It's funny because I don't know if you guys saw there was a hashtag going around on Twitter called "How to Confuse a Millennial," and it was started by some people who were older than me for sure. It started as a joke, right? And it was things like, ask them to parallel park, or hand them a cassette tape and a pencil and ask them how they go together. And I started thinking, I get the point, but some of that is just, it's irrelevant anymore. And how do we keep our mindset moving forward? I mean, cassette tapes are never going to be a thing again. Ever, ever, ever. It doesn't matter if you know what to do with them and a pencil. Never mind that pencils are practically obsolete. Yeah. It just doesn't matter. So how do we, as we get older and sort of set in our ways, not just how do I outsource the things that I don't need to be doing that somebody else can do, but how do I let go of the things that are irrelevant, even if they're ingrained in my habits?
Yes, in your habits, or in your business, or in your relationships, and exactly. Out with the things that are needed. The funny thing about issues that are no longer relevant is also the phrases. So if you and I set an appointment, I say, okay, I've got you penciled in. Well, at some point, people are going to not know what that means. What do you mean?
Right.
You penciled her in.
Right. My mom hates the expression "reach out to you." I'll reach out to you later. She's like, nobody's reaching out.
Exactly. Well, good. So what are the takeaways? We have just a few more minutes. What are the if we go back to what inspired you, why is it important to you, and how will you bring it into your life? And we go across both the films. Kyle, you started with your creativity and optimism, and some thoughts about the second film. But what's a takeaway or two that you feel is
Can
most
I speak,
important?
Matt? I am back here now. Did you?
Deborah.
I lost you for a while, down to usual Spanish internet, I think it must have been. But I'm back. I watched the second film.
Good.
So can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Please share.
All right. Okay. Sorry, I didn't want you to think that I'd left.
Well, can you tell us what you thought about the second film?
Yeah. What came across to me, and of course, you know how I think, having read my book and the way that I like to see things. This human economy, I mean, this is perfect. I mean, this is the way it was, and this is the way it should be again, I think. And I relate with the empathy, and I relate it a little bit to going back to basics. That's what I feel like I'm doing. Like the technology has taken us forward, and as we're all discussing, it's kind of making us stagnant and taking us away from our life purpose. You talked about your life purpose and being able to do something that nobody else can do. And I think that's great, because I think if that's the case, it proves that you're serving your life purpose. And I think that's what we all need to do. And we were given the gifts, and therefore we need to find them. And the other thing I've written down here is about the woman, I've forgotten her name already, sorry, but the photos on the Ebola nurses, I mean, it's so simple, and what a difference. I mean, not even to the patients. Did you notice the difference to the nurses themselves? They just felt so much more human having their picture on the front of those horrible costume things. So a little child being treated by them. I mean, and that's so simple, so simple. And that's another example of back to basics. Although she did use technology to print them, but it's back to basics, isn't it? It's that empathy, and I think. I'm feeling this very much at the moment and experiencing this very much at the moment. I don't know whether you're in the same sort of bracket as me, what we've done with our books lately, but it's been so computer orientated, and the groups are fantastic, and I really appreciate the support, but I find that it's just too computer orientated. Everyone's doing online courses and everything's online and everything, and I just think we need to go back to basics and take people away from the computers and back into nature, but we have to still use the computers, obviously. So it's a case of constantly simplifying what we're doing. And like as Stephanie says, working out, with the Twitter stuff and the hashtags, what do we want to spend our 5 minutes looking at? Is it going to inspire us? Do we need that? And we need to start deleting the stuff that isn't bringing us to our highest place.
Yes, that's perfect.
I just summed it all up, sorry.
And it's exciting too, I think. One issue that Tiffany didn't bring up in this film, but it certainly helped to create this film, and she delved deeper into this idea I'm about to share with you. In her, it's a full length, about an hour and 25-minute film called Connected. And if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend that you watch it. And what they explore there is, she mentioned a little bit, how we started with the revolution, the industrial revolution, and then the information revolution. All those previous revolutions, even starting with the agricultural revolution, were all based on the strengths of the left brain, the man, which is typically considered masculine. And before the agricultural revolution and the development of the alphabet, the woman spirit or gods were more powerful through all of human history. And now we're at the point we're in now, when we're leading towards what she calls the human economy. It's all based on strengths, character strengths that are typically considered more right brain or women-oriented, feminine-oriented. And so in that film, she talks about this is the era of the women coming back to power. And I found that really a fascinating concept, and I think it's really true.
And fabulous.
And fabulous. So, and this film touched on it, but she didn't have obviously enough time to cover that. Well, very good. So let's go back to takeaways, because one of the things I've been focusing on lately is if we engage in something like a conference, or in this case a workshop to focus on character strength, or we're reading a book, or whatever it is that we're doing to try to learn and improve ourselves, is the idea of becoming more after something than you were before you engaged in it. And so if we each had to come up with one thing that this hour we spent together, our one takeaway, which is what's that one thing that inspired you, and you would share with us why it's important to you. Why did you filter that one out of all the rest? And then spend just a minute maybe sharing your ideas about, because this would be something you haven't done to your level of satisfaction before, and that now you intend to do it. So how will you bring it into your life? What are you going to do different? And Kyle, let me start with you.
Perfect. Yes, I think my main overall takeaway inspiration would be just being more mindful. So a lot of these issues, or a lot of these concepts, really just delve into taking more time and being focused and mindful on what to improve, and figuring out in your own life what your strengths, weaknesses, and your improvements need to be. So I just want to take away from that of, this is nice because it gives you a few targets to aim for rather than just being more general. So I really want to try to focus in on being more creative with my thoughts and my practices, and taking a little more time to allow for creativity. And then also...
Why is that important?
Why is that important?
Yeah.
I mean, for generally what we do for work and all that, I think it's a beneficial trait to be more creative and think outside the box, and kind of find the next new thing rather than try to spit out what others have done. I think it's more beneficial to try to find different thoughts or ideas in the world.
So you'd be more impactful at your job.
At my job, and then just life in general. I'd rather be more curious and creative with my thoughts rather than regurgitating information from others or narratives that are out in the world.
So how are you going to do that? What's your...
That's a great idea. Great question. So I think just being more mindful, putting more time to a task. So let's say if I were to write a post and would normally budget so many hours, budget in another couple hours to that to get my original thoughts on, and then try to take a different slant towards it, rather than just getting through the basics or getting what needs to be done, taking that, but then going one step beyond and rethinking it. If that makes sense.
So budgeting time then would include, because I presume you're still working only on 24 hours a day.
Sure.
So to budget more time on those things that you're identifying as important means you're going to eliminate some things that you've been doing.
Sure.
By the very definition.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Stephanie, how about you walk us through what, why, and how?
So for me, the what is something that I've been trying to do for the last, I would say, year maybe, but I feel like this sort of has added fuel to the fire. At the end of the first film, they said everybody is a star, they just need to learn how to shine.
And that was a teenager.
Yeah, and I think it's actually a concept that my husband first introduced me to, as he's been a manager at various levels in his companies for years. And he's always very good about figuring out whether or not somebody is in the right role for the strengths that they have. And that if they're not, that's not a failure of the person, it's a failure of the match between that person in that role, and helping them move into a role that's more appropriate. And for me, I struggle sometimes if somebody doesn't have the strengths that I immediately recognize and admire, I don't see them as a star, because I don't see them for their unique beauty, their unique contribution. And I think it's something I've been really working on for the way I view the world, is to look at each person and see, okay, how can I help you shine? And I do that as a dietitian, right? I want people to feel their best. I want to help them in the way they need to be helped, for food, for health, for wellness, etc. And I think that's something that I want to keep taking, and this sort of gives me a framework to use, right? What are the strengths that person has that they can use to shine, that I can encourage in them to help them shine, whether it's related to food or any other thing that they're trying to accomplish in their lives.
Yeah. Excellent. And Deborah?
Well, I agree with everything that you guys have said. I mean, I think this is what it's all about, and it's back to what I said before about everybody's individual life purpose. I find this very reassuring, because it's almost like it's a scientific approach to the fact that, yes, you can just do the thing that makes your heart sing, because that's your life purpose, and it's a case of finding it, and then you can enjoy it. There's this thing about, you enjoy it a lot more if you know it's the unique thing that you should be doing. But one of the things I like to do is to try and help people find their life purpose, because when you've got it, because you're enjoying yourself, you don't feel like you're working, and obviously it's more fun, and the universe will provide for you if you're following the purpose that you're meant to be following. So everyone's better off. Everything falls into place, and it's kind of it's comforting, because sometimes we do try and keep up with everybody else, and I've got to do this, and these people are studying this, and I've got to go and study that as well, and and we get caught up in all of this, and we get caught up in the having to do the next fad, or having to do whereas really everybody's different, and you said, Matt, yourself, about being unique and doing your own unique thing, and what Kyle said about being mindful, just being more mindful about what you do, and being aware, are you in alignment with the jobs that you're doing? This is again what we've just heard about. Everybody is a star. They just need to learn how to shine, and you've got to be in the right roles. Is it your role? And you should know if it's your role by the way that you shine at it, and hopefully you'll shine more than anybody else, because that's your role. So. I mean, it's this. If we're going for the human economy, if we're going for the empathy, then the answers are within us, and that's comforting as well, because it means the road to find what it is we need to do is within us, so we can get it by meditation and yoga, as opposed to studying. And I mean, obviously, we might be guided to study something, obviously, and but what I'm saying is, rather than this rat race, there's kind of like a rat race going on. And I think the internet's one of the negatives of the internet is it's perpetuated that rat race of having to do this, and this. And as you said before, as Carl said, the time wasting. I mean, the time wasting is amazing, isn't it? So it's just a case of tuning in, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very good. Well, I'll share my my what, why, and how too. I think the big what for me, and it's as Stephanie said, hers was. It's something I've been aware of for some time now, and it's based on probably curiosity, gratitude, appreciation of beauty, empathy being weaker traits in me than maybe things like honesty or creativity or discipline. Those are enthusiasm. Those are things that come easy to me. And I think maybe the fact that I'm what's it called, the A-type personality, hard charger. So what I want to really work on is a give, not take attitude. To really live the mission that I have at Happy Living, to improve the health and well-being of the world one person at a time, and to be other-minded. And one of the things I caught myself at the other day, I'm monitoring, as I know you probably are, Deborah, how many books we're selling. And I caught myself in saying, wait, what the hell am I talking about the books I'm selling? What I should be excited about is how many new readers am I reaching? Huge shift in that. And I'm totally convinced, I'm not sure I'm convinced I can do it, but I'm totally convinced that the best way for me to reach the most people and to have the biggest impact on pursuing our mission at Happy Living to improve the health and well-being of the world is to really get down to the simple, deep connection of one person at a time and put it all in there and just keep doing that and keep staying small with a big idea. So that's my what. Why
I think an important thing you said there as well was, which we have touched on before, about going with your strengths. But on a soul level, we all have a primary energy center. There are 8 energy centers, and our souls all have a primary one. And one of the things I like to do with my clients is to find out what energy center they are, because if you know what energy center you are, then, like you said, something about, you work more with this and this than you do with this and this, because you know yourself, you've worked out how you work, But if you know what energy center you are, then you know what you should be working in, and that saves a lot of time, I think, a lot of energy. I mean, mine is divine truth, and I thought that everybody was truthful. I thought that everybody hated lies. I didn't realize that it was my thing. And so working with talking about the truth or sharing the truth and stuff is my forte. So you'll have a different, people will have different ones. But I mean, I'm saying that more because it's you mentioned sort of analysing what your own strengths and what you're good at and what you work with, and it's a case of seeing that in other people as well, isn't it?
Yes, very good, very good. Well, we're coming up to the hour. I'll just I want to add. Well, first of all, Deborah, tell our audience the name of your book. We'll do a book plug here.
Oh, Heal Yourself to Happiness.
That's a great book. I've read it, and I think it'd be a good read for anybody who's interested in health and well-being. It's outstanding. Secondly, I'd just like to remind everybody to participate in this hashtag Pass It On campaign. And I think it's really, I've been doing this, we've teed up about 20 people that we admire character strengths in. And so think about that and participate, because you'd make somebody who you admire probably really happy if they see that you've given them a shout out on Facebook or on Twitter. So it's hashtag Pass It On campaign. Put a hashtag in front of the character strengths that you admire about them, and then list your person. I think that's a wonderful thing to do. And then the final thing is, on the email link that I sent you, Character Day is hosting a live cast all day long about things that are going on, and if you have time, participate in that as well. Finally, we're recording this. When Kyle gets it all done, we'll send everybody the link, and you'll have it for your own records, and share it with your friends if you'd like. Thank you all very much. Happy Character Day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.